So now let's talk about building the high achiever. We've already talked about some of it. What we have to do is let young people make their own mistakes, all right? Because they've got to be able to figure out how to recover. Next, we want kids to build their spikes, to polish that area that they are absolutely amazing at. And what that means is that telling kids to just try their best doesn't work. It doesn't work. We know that. Because the kids who are the socially elite kids, what they hear when you say just try their best is, and if you do, I know you're going to get an A. All right? So instead, I give it in a whole paragraph. I demand effort, but it sounds like this. Darling, I want you to work really hard, because if you don't, you're never going to trust the results. You're never going to believe them. But you know what? When you work hard, I want you to pay attention to the results, because they're going to be quite different. Sometimes you're going to work really hard, or you're not going to have to work very hard, and it just comes so naturally that it's going to all come to you, and you're going to get good grades. You're not that interested in it, but it just comes naturally. That's what we call a freebie. Just take it. Sometimes you're going to work really hard at something, and you're not perfect at it, but you really like it, and you think it's really cool, and you wish you could learn more. And so you really work very hard to do that. And when you get something wrong on a test, you just kind of uncover it or take one step to learn even more. That's your career. Sometimes you're going to work very hard at something, and you're not that good at it, but you think it's a lot of fun, and you really enjoy it, and you get a little bit better, but not good enough to be called, like, good. That's your hobby. Suppose you work really hard at something and you're not very good at it at all, and you're not that interested in it, and you really don't like it, but you do what you have to do. You know, you get the tutoring, you go to your teacher for support, you go to me for support, and you're still not very good at it. Forget about it. That's what creates so much anxiety in people. We are uneven, and we have to give them permission to forget. You also have to tell them that while you're in school, you have to know just enough. You may not be able to get an A in that class or even a B, but know just enough so you can function in society. So when you talk to an engineer, you know not to say like, oh, what kind of choo-choo train do you drive? Know just enough. And the last thing, and I think I can pull this off in 7 minutes before lunch. The last thing is probably the most evidence-based thing we know about success, which is about the importance of praising effort. Have you guys been trained up in Carol Dweck's work? Mindset. So many of you not. This is incredibly important. I'm going to give you an introduction to it. It's summarized in my books, but the original book is Carol Dweck. Here's what she does. She's a Stanford-based researcher. She takes fifth graders. This is another piece of the perfect storm that created this generation. She takes fifth graders, she divides them into two groups. She gives them all an IQ test. That part of the IQ test that is about puzzles and mazes. And then she gives them all, they're random groups, but she gives them all individual feedback. This group, she says, you did really well. You know why? Because you're very smart. This group, she says, you did really well. You know why? Because you worked very hard. That is the entire intervention. And then she says, hey kids, who would like to take some more puzzle tests? Who wants to do the puzzle test? The kids who were told they were smart, or the kids who were told they worked hard? Absolutely. The smart kids are like, no thank you, I have my label, I like it. The kids who were told they worked hard, they just keep turning it over and going for it. Then what happens is she gives them an 8th grade test. So it's 3 years above them developmentally, which means that they really shouldn't be able to do it. What happens to the kids who were told they work hard? They turn it around, they try to figure it out, they keep going. What happens to the kids who were told they were smart? They fall apart with anxiety, particularly the girls. Then the next day, she gives them another 5th grade test. So the scores should be identical because, as you know, standardized tests are never biased by race, class, or gender. So the test should be the same. What happens to the kids who were told they were smart? Their scores go down 20%. Why? Because they're anxious about losing their label. They had an experience with failure the day before, and they've lost their confidence. What happens to the kids who were told that they could work hard? Their scores go up 20% because they know that they can push themselves. But if that one line in one day in a controlled experiment, you're so smart, you worked so hard, created that much of a change, what would a lifetime of praise do. And so her next, or not her next, but her, in my opinion, most elegant study is she works with people in their late 20s and in their late 30s. And this one group, the same group who were told they're so smart, their parents tended to praise them for what they are. Not the R, the heartfelt R I was talking about, the R in terms of what they produce. You are so beautiful. You are so good at math. You are so good at history. You are such a good athlete. You are such a good chef. You are such a good artist. The parents who praise in that way with those labels tend to also ask about results. How did you do on your math test? How did you do on your history test? How many goals did you get in soccer? Did you win the blue ribbon for your cake? Did you win the medal for your art? That's this group. This group tend to be praised for process. And the process looks like this. You pulled off that B plus in your math test. You know why? After you got a D last time, it was because you put in the sweat, you put in the hours, you got help. I'm really proud of you. I love watching you paint because seriously, it's like your heart is coming out in your body. When you sing, I know what you feel. I can see it coming out. It is amazing. I love watching you play soccer because when you play soccer, you're marking your man. You're thinking 3 steps ahead of him. You're anticipating. That's why you got the assist, man. It was nice to watch, okay? And how do we praise? Or what do we check in on? What'd you learn today? Tell me about your picture. How'd you pick up your game? So basically, these are results and these are process. And this is you are blank, and this is you did blank, and it paid off in this way. That is the self-esteem movement. This is what we're trying to do now. You did blank, and it paid off in this way, gives people control. What is anxiety? The loss of control. What is trauma? The loss of control. When we give people control back, it pays off. What do these people look like when they're 20 and 30? What these people look like is they look for life partners who flatter them. They are more anxious and more depressed. Their performances are at a lower level. They don't like hard work because they see hard work as a sign that they're not naturally intelligent. Right? If you were really as good as you were told, you shouldn't have to work hard. You don't like thinking outside the box. Why? Because you were told you're good inside the box and you don't want to be in a territory where you might get that B plus. Right? And you hate constructive criticism. Why? Because you've never believed your praise, and that praise was your label. You are blank, and now someone's going to take it away from you? Too close to your truth. These people, exact opposite. They lower levels of anxiety and depression. They look for life partners who complement them, meaning are different from them. They love thinking outside the box. They love hard work because they see hard work as a sign they are going to be able to grow. All right? And they appreciate constructive criticism because they understand that it is only with constructive criticism that you can make it. It is amazing. You are blank. You did blank, and this was the outcome. Let's put it into criticism. You are a slob. You are lazy. Your room is really messy because you didn't pick your stuff up. You're really not going to do well in this test because you're not putting in the hours. Do you see the difference? That's a label, and this is something you can control. This is the kind of stuff we need to teach parents. And as you may know, this is like taking a lot of the country, the mindset curriculum in school districts as well, to try to create what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset, a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and that Ken Ginsburg calls a high achiever versus a perfectionistic mindset.